when you understand your subconscious and you rewrite that story, and now you're able to recognize the things you want to have in your life, the things you want to attract, the things you want for yourself.
83% of Americans identify as not very happy, which can hold you back and negatively affect your relationships and your business. On this podcast, we discuss the proven steps to happiness so you can restore balance and rekindle your joy.
Welcome to another episode of How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. Hope your day is going amazing. We have a fantastic guest on today. So Christy, welcome to the How to Be Happier podcast.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm super excited to be here and just happy to share my experiences with your audience today.
Awesome. So as we always do, we just jump right into the meat of the conversation. So can you share your transformation, I like both words, from being a teacher to becoming an RTT therapist? What were the key moments that prompted you to dramatically change your life and career?
Yeah, I love that you start with this because I'm still shifting in my identity right now from being a teacher to a hypnotherapist. And there were a couple key moments. The first time I ever experienced hypnotherapy, I just felt this huge weight lifted off my shoulders, and I knew something was going to change dramatically. I didn't know right away, but I just knew there were bigger things coming. I just felt a huge, major shift in my body, my mind, everything. And so the second key moment was actually when I discovered that Marissa Peer was coming to LA, and I had to go and enroll and experience the live experience with her. And so when I enrolled, the moment I hung up the phone with the gentleman that enrolled me into the program and I made my payment to attend the school and the live event, I sat in my car and just started crying because I knew this was going to be my last year as a school teacher. And as I continued to study in the program, it just had major impact in the way I showed up in the classroom, the way I showed up for my students, the way I thought, the way I operated. Everything changed. And I just knew I was moving towards a new career. And it's like when you discover a new understanding, a new wisdom, there's no going back. You can't go back to who you once were or what you were doing before when you know better. And so those were some of the key moments that led me to transitioning from being a school teacher to a hypnotherapist now.
So Marissa Peer is the founder and she runs RTT, which stands for Rapid Transformational Therapy. And it's a combination of cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, NLP, and hypnosis, of course. So had you done hypnosis before showing up to the live event?
I had not. So I was brand new to hypnotherapy. I was a very naive, excited young school teacher, fourth year into her teaching career. And when I discovered the subconscious mind and discovered how much of my reality was actually being controlled by my very silly subconscious, I just became so fascinated, and I had to attend the event. I had to meet Marissa Peer, and I had to just learn more and experience more. So I dove right in.
So tell us those changes, and then we're going to come back and we're going to ask what actually happened in those hypnosis sessions. But the changes that you said were so profound in the classroom, what were they specifically?
Yeah, so I realized that very seemingly harmless interactions can be quite influential in a child's life. And so when I showed up in the classroom, I was very aware and cautious of the words I was using, my mannerisms, how we started our day. So in my classroom, every single day, before any math is being taught, we start with affirmations. And so we would say our affirmations out loud at the beginning of the day, every single period that I taught. And then we would move into check-in questions. So in my Google Classroom, I would ask a question every single day, and it would have nothing to do with the schoolwork. It would have everything to do with, how's your heart feeling? What was your win yesterday? What was your win today? Or what would be a win for you today? So things like that, so that we start our day with mindfulness and really checking in and seeing how everyone's doing.
And so did you learn that conversations with children are so influential? Did you learn that in the hypnosis?
Pretty much. I mean, I knew, but not to the degree that I understood later on, because now that I've done more hypnotherapy sessions, there are so many very innocent scenes that come up that are influencing our everyday behaviors. And we always think that we need to have some kind of traumatic event that would require us to go to therapy. But in reality, every little interaction we have as we are developing is a programming experience that stays in your subconscious, that stays in your mind, that controls your behavior.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Had you gone to therapy before at all in your life?
I had gone to talk therapy before in my early 20s when I was an undergrad and a graduate student.
And how did that go for you?
It was not for me, to be honest. I didn't find it helpful to talk about my problems and talk about the things that were hard for me. And now, knowing what I know, it makes a lot of sense, because if you're using your conscious mind, your analytical mind, your logical mind to talk about your problems, it's hard to get to the root cause when what's actually the thing that's controlling you and controlling your behaviors is your subconscious. It's the non-analytical, non-logical mind. It's like a child. And so when I understood that afterwards, I realized, oh, that's why talk therapy wasn't for me, because the things that were influencing my behaviors weren't coming from logical things, weren't coming from my conscious analytical mind. It was all coming from silly subconscious beliefs from my childhood, from things I experienced in the past.
So you say silly, but I know you don't really mean that. We like to say that, but it really is just the brain doing exactly what it should be doing, thinking it's like keeping us safe and alive, right?
Exactly. So when I say silly, I like to think of the subconscious mind as an innocent child. It takes everything at face value. It takes everything literally. So that's why we have to be very careful with the words we use and the thoughts that we think, because our subconscious will take everything literally at face value and try to implement it. And so I use silly as a lighter way to say, oh, it's like not your fault. Your subconscious doesn't know any better. It's just trying to get you the thing it thinks you want.
Yeah. So what you have to understand if you're listening to this and you're struggling is that these thoughts are just keeping you from facing something that your mind thinks is even more scary or more hurtful. So part of the work that we do is just to show you that these thoughts really aren't as scary and true that you think they are, so that you can then, once you realize the source and what created it, then whatever the symptom is that talk therapy just wants to talk about every week over and over and over again, you can actually just stop the symptom, right? It's just stop whatever. If it's anxiety, eating, depression, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, exactly. When we have a conversation with our subconscious, our inner child, it can be logical and it can undo what it's trying to do, and it can move towards the thing you want it to move towards once you have that awareness and that conversation with it.
So how have your early life experiences shaped and influenced your understanding of self-love and relationships and what you do now?
Yeah, so I'll share one of my scenes that showed up during my first hypnotherapy session. It was a very innocent interaction with my mom. I was 5 years old and I had my friend come over for dinner. And when I went to the bathroom, my friend, she took some food out of my bowl. And as I came out of the bathroom, my mom pulled me aside and she said, hey, I think you need to make better choices in friends. Your friend just took food out of your bowl while you were gone. And as an innocent 5-year-old child, I took that as at face value and took it as, oh, I don't have good judgment in friends. I can't trust my own judgment anymore. And that actually really manifested itself in all my relationships. After I formed that belief about my own judgment, I had pretty on the surface level relationships with kids at school, my siblings, even with my parents. And that was all my own perception, my own experience. And so when I learned that this innocent interaction with my mom had been influencing my behavior my whole life, I realized that, oh, I don't have to be that 5-year-old child who doesn't trust her own judgment anymore. I can go out into the world and nurture deep, meaningful relationships. And so I just started putting myself out there. I took immediate action and started going to events, making new friends, even nurturing and healing the relationship I had with all my siblings and my parents and everyone else in my life where I felt like was only on the surface level relationships. Now I have much more meaningful, deeper connections, and nothing had to change about the other people in my life. It just, all I needed to change was how I felt inside and how I related to and connected to other people.
Interesting. So your intimate relationships prior to your work, where did you find the struggles?
I struggled a lot with romantic relationships in my past, and I didn't know I had a pattern. I had a pattern of being with someone that I could take care of. I always took on this caretaker role, and I understood later on through hypnotherapy that this comes from past subconscious wounds and that there was something within me that needed to be taken care of in order for me to allow someone else to also care for me.
Interesting. So can you go back to your childhood and think of why you were playing, or were you playing that care role, and why did you have to play that care role?
I think about actually when I was a little bit older, in high school. It was the first time I witnessed my father cry. And when I witnessed this, it just so happened that I made a poor choice the day before. And I related my behavior, or I made my behavior the cause of his tears. That was the connection I made, even though it wasn't true. Wasn't true, but that was the connection that I made and the belief that I formed at the time. And because I watched my father cry and I made it my fault, I went out into other romantic relationships thinking that I had to make things better for hurt men who were crying, men who were hurt, men who had things they had not worked through yet. And I had to go into their lives and fix it or care for it or nurture it and take care of it. So
And how'd that work for you?
didn't work very well. Nope.
And tell us why, like, because someone's listening to this and you're saying that was in your shoes, that used to be in your shoes, is now in the shoes that you used to wear. Maybe that's the best way of saying it. What were the actual problems that manifested themselves in those relationships?
I think the actual problems were me just not understanding myself and understanding where this pattern and this behavior comes from. Because even though my logical mind, my conscious mind would observe my own behaviors and observe my own relationships and see the red flags and see that, oh, this relationship is not for me. This is not it. I don't want to be the caretaker all the time, but I keep doing it. And so just from understanding myself better, I was able to break free from that and actually go for what I actually want.
So you matched with partners who had a big need to be taken care of. So, and that could cause all kinds of problems. Okay, I see that now. So now it's been about a year and a half, because I was actually at that same week-long training you were at, which was amazing back in October of 2022. Since then, has anything changed in your romantic relationships?
Oh yeah, dramatically. So literally 3 weeks after our 5-day training, I met my partner and I've been with him for a year and a half now. And during that live training, we did several practice sessions on my relationship patterns. It was at our training that I discovered my relationship patterns and why I was doing the things I was doing, why I was behaving the way I was behaving. And it only took 3 weeks after the event for me to meet my partner. And it has been the most fulfilling, nurturing, wholesome, beautiful relationship I've ever had in my life.
And tell us why. Like, what changed so much between finding these men who absolutely needed to be cared for and finding this new person? What changed, and then how is the actual relationship different from your prior ones?
Oh, yeah. So it was so funny at first because I caught myself feeling discomfort the moment I first met him. And this feeling of discomfort, I recognized later, was an unfamiliarity. I had made it so familiar to be with men who needed that emotional support, men who needed caretaking, that when I met a secure and confident and very attentive man, healthy man, I was uncomfortable and I felt this like
Wow.
avoidance at first. And then I realized, oh my goodness, no, it's just something I didn't recognize. Like now I recognize it. And that's what happens when you understand your subconscious and you rewrite that story. And now you're able to recognize the things you want to have in your life. You want the things you want to attract, the things you want for yourself. You recognize it. And it sounds crazy saying out loud, but it's as simple as that. You recognize what you want and then you go for it.
Incredible, right? Incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And you were fortunate to find this at an early age. I mean, some people go their whole lives, and it wasn't until I was 47 years old that I learned this stuff. And since then, my last 3 years have been the best years of my life, including my relationships, my health, my business success, all from just going back and figuring out what are these stories that I keep telling myself that I don't even know I'm telling myself, that are buried in my subconscious mind, that are only trying to keep that 6-year-old little boy inside me safe, right? Safe and protected.
Yeah.
It's amazing stuff. It's amazing work. So I know when we talked last time, you're facing some health challenges. Can you tell us about those, and how do you connect physical ailments to mental and emotional well-being?
Yeah. So I didn't realize I still felt insecure until recently. I had a huge shout out from a friend. He's a YouTuber and he made a shout out on his YouTube channel about me. And I started getting all this attention and I felt really insecure and closed off. And even though I know I've come such a long way and I'm confident and secure, I found myself facing anxiety and feeling like I wanted to hide. And then I had to think, okay, where is this actually coming from? Where are the other insecurities in my life? And so I've been long struggling with chronic stress, gut problems, and imbalanced hormones. And I also have eczema. And so when I realized that I still have insecurities in my life that I need to work through, um, it just made sense that I was feeling insecure in my work life because your body and your mind is all interconnected. And so I realized, okay, I can't just work in one area of my life. I have to work in all areas of my life to be productive. Because otherwise, if you only focus on the business aspect or the success aspect and you're not working on the health and the physical, it's counterproductive. And so whenever I face something that might seem like just an on the surface social business problem, it's probably another problem somewhere else too. And so I made that connection and I've been working on my gut health and my hormones. I got lab work done. And right now I'm in the process of just, holistically healing my body, my mind. And I know that this will help me show up better in my business as well.
So you believe that the eczema and the gut issues and the hormone issues have something to do with the chronic stress that you felt for years?
Oh, for sure. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And
Mm-hmm.
in your work, did you figure out the source of that chronic stress?
I think it's just a combination of all sorts of things I've dealt with in my romantic relationships, in my childhood, in the classroom as a school teacher. And so I've done so many sessions where I've seen a lot of scenes in all ages of my life, all stages. So when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, even in my 20s, they all come up. And as I reach new levels, I still continue to do more hypnotherapy sessions because we're always going to have something to work on.
For sure, for sure. And behind me, there's a book by Gabor Mate. It's a 500-page book called The Myth of Normal. Have you read that book yet?
I started it last summer. I didn't complete it yet, but I know it's a good one.
Yeah, so the whole book is on how chronic stress creates illnesses and creates most of the illnesses in this world. And so if you're struggling, if you have an illness, if you have an autoimmune disease, or if you've gone to a doctor and they've used their word that I love so much, idiopathic, which means no known causes. There's always a known cause, and it's because your body's out of ease. Mark Mincola says that the opposite of self-love is self-contempt, and self-contempt leads to dis-ease of the body, and dis-ease leads to disease. So if you have an illness and you haven't been able to figure it out, and the doctors just keep telling you that it can't be figured out or it can't be cured, or that you should be using some type of drug, go take my simple quiz at bradchandler.com/quiz, and it will tell you if you lack self-love or you have mild self-love, there is a really good chance that's from these stories that Christy and I are talking about from your childhood that could be causing you chronic stress, that could be leading to your illness. What do you have to lose but 3 minutes? If you've got something and you can't cure it or you can't figure it out, this might be the first step of a journey that ends up changing your life. And if it changes your health life, I can promise you it's going to affect your relationships and your business and your net worth and everything. So anyway, go take that quiz right now, bradchandler.com/quiz, and see your results and maybe start a journey that could forever change your life. So Christy, I know you've helped entrepreneurs, high achieving entrepreneurs, overcome imposter syndrome and self-doubt. Could you share a memorable client story? We talked about perhaps the sales professional who tackled his, inferiority complex. Would you share that with us?
Yeah. So not too long ago, and I'm still working with him now, but I had a client come to me. He's achieved a lot of success. He's a salesperson, and he came to me with this inferiority complex that he had been trying to resolve for years. He had been going to talk therapy since 2010.
Wow.
And when he enrolled, he was super excited because he knew that it was something subconscious. And he was right, because after one session, it was resolved, and he was just so amazed. He couldn't even believe it himself. And I said, it's rapid transformational therapy for a reason. You get rapid results. And since then, he's enrolled his fiance, and I've been working with him and his fiance for the past 3 months now. And he's a different person. He's just so much more confident, so much more at peace. And, you become a lot more compassionate when you understand that a lot of the things that are controlling you is something really hard to resolve if you don't have the right tools and the right guidance. And so he's able to be more forgiving, more compassionate with his healing journey, because he realized, he had been doing all the work and he didn't make progress because it's very hard to find the root cause unless you have the right guidance, the right tools. And so he's been so happy working with me. I'm really happy working with him and his family, and things are looking really good.
So has anything changed in terms of his business success?
Oh yeah. So he made President's Club while working with me. He just is a lot more confident in his sales calls, and just his relationship has improved. For the first time during New Year's, he said he sat down with his fiance, and they sat down with their goals and vision boarded and talked about what they wanted, and they're working as a team, and they're both uncovering things in their subconscious that's influencing their behaviors. So it becomes a very powerful tool when you're working with both partners in a team. Yeah.
Yes. So Brent's a client of mine, and I'm saying his name because he was on my podcast and he said it publicly, but we worked with his wife and him. And he was like, it was so awesome to be able to have my wife help me. But he said something at the end of our podcast, which was the last podcast or the podcast before this. At the end, he goes, Brad, I was doubtful about signing up and paying your fees. He was like, I'm a business person. I'm like, how am I going to get the returns? Because he wasn't coming to me to make more money. He was coming to me from a sense of overwhelm and racing mind. And he said, do you know that in the 6 months, I think it's been 5 months, he said 6, that we've worked together, my income has doubled. And he was already doing good when he came to me. But I said to him, does that make sense? Why? Because most of our clients, when they have these limiting beliefs and the subconscious thoughts controlling them, they're in a fight or flight state, right? If you've got a lion chasing you, how can you really do a good job in your business and think creatively or strategically? It's really, really hard. So what Christy and I do is we help you in a matter of hours kill that proverbial tiger chasing you. Then you can take a deep breath and be like, oh, okay, now I can make this move and that move and that move. So it's amazing what you're doing. And it's amazing how fast this stuff, like I went to 30 years of therapy and in 3 hours, my life changed dramatically because we used the right tools finally, right?
Exactly.
So what advice would you give to entrepreneurs listening to this podcast who might be facing a similar challenge in terms of, how to overcome self-doubt in advance of, in both their personal and professional life?
I think entrepreneurs and high achievers would benefit a lot from understanding that their personal life and their business life is very, very interconnected. And so it is such a powerful investment to use a tool, whether it be hypnotherapy, whether it be meditation, whatever it is, use some kind of tool that will help you connect to yourself, have this self-awareness, understand yourself better. And that way you have more mental clarity, you have just a better state of being in order to run your business, in order to make good connections, nurture your relationships, live a good life, and live a healthy life. And so as long as you understand that they're all interrelated, just keep that in mind when you operate, when you move about the world, and do what it takes to understand yourself, connect with yourself, take time to really have a mindfulness practice.
Yeah, because it's in those moments where you can access your subconscious mind, right? And figure out what are these limiting beliefs that are holding me back, this imposter syndrome. What's the cause of it? Because you weren't born with it, I promise you. Whatever you're struggling with right now or suffering from, it's not your fault. It's just your brain's, your brain is doing exactly what it thinks it should do to keep you safe and protected. And all you have to say is, no, subconscious mind. Thank you for protecting me all these years, but I don't need you anymore. You can go bye-bye now.
Exactly. Yeah. Another thing I want to add is get help. Like, we're not meant to do things alone. Find someone that knows what they're doing and get to your goal 10 times faster. Resolve your problems a lot easier. Get the help. Like, we're meant to live in community. We're meant to help each other. We're meant to build each other up. So don't hesitate to reach out and get the help that you need and get the support, because we're meant to live in community.
Awesome stuff. So Christy, in closing, I understand you have a new book.
Yes, I do. And it shares my journey of hypnotherapy and my transition from being a teacher to a hypnotherapist. And there's a lot of reflection questions in there. So it is the new year. And if you haven't done your reflections for the new year yet, it's a great tool, great guide to reflect.
Where can people find the book and where can people find you?
Yeah, so the book is called All My Love by Christy Nguyen, and you can find it on Amazon. It's available on Kindle and paperback. And if you'd like to reach out to me, you can find me at www.christy-nguyen.com.
Okay, you want to spell your last name?
Yes, Nguyen.
Awesome. So Christy, what do you think would be really important? The last little nugget you can throw out to our listeners. What would be really important for someone to know that we just haven't said?
Ooh, I want to read one rule of the mind that resonates with me right now. So I'm going to go ahead and read this to our audience, okay? Once an idea has been accepted by the subconscious mind, it remains there until it's replaced by a new one.
And
That's
tell
the
us
one that stands out.
Yeah. So what does that mean for someone that's listening to this? What could that belief or thought be?
Yeah, so going back full circle to my 5-year-old self, I believe that I made poor judgment, and that stayed with me my whole life until I replaced it. And so when you're feeling stuck or you have a roadblock and you're not sure where it's coming from, it's probably a subconscious belief that had been installed years and years ago that was never replaced by a new empowering thought or belief. So if you need a software update for your mind, it's time to find someone to help you with that.
And up until 20 years ago, they thought science for 100 years thought that once those beliefs were formed, they were stuck forever. And now with the new science, it's new science, but some people like Ayurvedic that's been around for thousands of years has been saying it's just no one would listen to them until science spent hundreds of millions of dollars. But now they've proven that those thoughts aren't stuck forever and that you can replace them through the work that we do. So it's amazing. My belief for years was I was not enough, and it ruled my life. It impacted every single area of my life in a negative way. There were some benefits. It drove me because I had to prove my worth. So I made a bunch of money, also lost a bunch of money trying to prove my worth. So yeah, fantastic stuff. Christy, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I was so happy to be here, and I'm so excited for everyone listening to get the help that they need and find resources that are going to help them upgrade and update their mental software.
So I'm on a mission to help 1 million people find freedom from the suffering and live a life of freedom and happiness and joy that they deserve. So I need your help. So if you like this show, please share it, please rate it, please review it, whatever you can do to help me spread this message. I would greatly appreciate it. That concludes another episode of How to Be Happier for Entrepreneurs. And remember, love heals all.
Hit subscribe if you don't want to miss out on more life-changing content. And if you're struggling, you don't have to. Go to bradchandler.com/contact. There, you can join the Facebook community of like-minded entrepreneurs, and you'll see a button to schedule your freedom and happiness call. See you on the next episode.